Welcome to 52 Pickup, a podcast about the greatest comic you've never heard of. I'm professional comic book expert Alex Jaffe, and joining me as always is my favorite culture journalist, Gita Jackson.
Yo, what's up? I'm Gita. I'm here. Everything's here. We're all here. And I'm here once more.
You know who else is here? Black Adam is here.
He fucking is. He
There's
has
no
arrived.
avoiding it. We've been building up to this for a long ass time. He just lost everything. He's going on his John Wick style rampage over here in this issue. It's popping off. This is a real Morrison heavy one, and it's one of my favorite issues in kind of the entire run. It's so much this aftermath of Black Adam just going ham on Bialia and fighting the Four Horsemen. It was all preamble to him going after a bunch of egg-headed scientists here on this super island.
This makes the sort of nothing burger of the last issue feel so worth it.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, I really enjoy reading this one. I enjoy reading it every time I go through 52 because it is just like, have you ever watched like a B horror movie from the 1950s or 60s and thought to yourself, what is it like to like hang out with these people? Here's your answer.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
How would you manage your schedule if you had to hang out with the dudes from the Andromeda strain?
Yeah, exactly. There's a little bit of like a Space Mutiny vibe in here. Space Mutiny is my personal favorite MST3K. That's the one I always throw on when I'm feeling bad.
I like Master Ninja. I like Prince of Space, but that's a good one.
Yeah, thank you. It's just when they start going big, McLarge huge. I crack up every time.
Oh, boy. We can talk talent if you'd like.
Let's do it.
Don't have to do it for very long. We are in the last leg of this book, which means they're not out recruiting new people. We've basically got everybody we're going to get. Patrick Olive, Drew Gerasi, and Rodney Ramos are back. We've all seen them a bunch of times by now. There's only like less than 10 issues left. I can't do math. What's 52 minus 46? Who knows? Scientists are still working on it.
Please don't ask me to do math in my head.
We got a bunch of people on this cover who could do that math. Ostensibly, I guess. They might invent a killer living equation that eats Tokyo instead of giving you the number 6. But there they are. It's...
They're super scientists, so they gotta know some math at least.
Yeah. I really like the colors here on this cover, the way that it mimics the chest plate of Black Adam itself, that yellow lightning bolt on that stark black background, striking Black Adam in the chest. And in that lightning bolt, we see colored in gold the various scientists from Oolong Island. A very good looking Dr. Savannah here with his like mousy little buck teeth. And just a lurking egg foo in the background.
Yeah, it's great. The build up to this confrontation, it's just such a zany cast of characters. You get so much personality in every single expression. It is super fun. This
is all hands on deck. The nerds are panicking because they know that Black Adam has figured out where the Four Horsemen came from, that they were dispatched to get rid of him. And now he's out on the rampage and has their heads in his sights. We have a little bit of a first draft of this cover that you can find in the liner notes for this issue in the collected edition, where there's kind of a neat little greetings from Oolong Island postcard in the background. I think the editors got rid of it because it was a little too busy. I think it was the right call going with that black on with that gold on black.
Yeah, I mean the gold on black evokes Black Adam's suit. Also, it gives it a visual cohesion. But I do like the postcard. I want to see a full image of the postcard. It's like that's what I really want to see.
I like how there's like a different giant monster destroying a city in each letter of the Oolong Island font. Like there's a giant praying mantis. There's like a big Aquaman.
Oh, that's so great. Such a good little detail. That's like a piece of merch they probably should have sold.
Right. Something they'd give out at like a Comic-Con as a promotional thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's get into the meat of our issue. Our big giant cracked Eggman is scrambling everybody to the battle stations. And
scrambling.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That was on purpose, just so we all know.
Yeah, it was. But while everybody is getting ready to fight evil Superman, T.O. Morrow will not get up from his seat because he is too busy in like an eBay auction war for his old
so funny. What I really like, what I really like about the characterization in this issue is that each of these supervillains feels really distinct from each other, even though they are all variations on the mad scientist theme. And especially T.O. Morrow, he comes off as a person who is just far more petty than anyone else really realizes. And I greatly enjoy that dynamic in this ensuing fight.
The highlights of this are T.O. Morrow and Dr. Savannah, who is just having the time of his fucking life in this issue as everybody fears for their lives. He's like, oh, I've been fighting the Marvels my whole life. This is my Super Bowl. I'm into it.
Yeah, he's like really, really having a fucking blast.
Yeah, I have gone almost a year without fighting any of these guys. I need it. But yeah, everybody's panicking. Veronica Cale is having an existential crisis. Real "Are we the baddies?" look inward. Oh no, I literally created the personification of death. Was that a bad thing?
She's really crashing out. It's pretty funny. It's interesting how another example of how this is like Morrison's really annoying stock female character.
Yeah.
But she is the only one to have any kind of emotional response to understanding like the level of devastation she's brought in her wake. She is like a mad scientist in a way that I find fun to have in the mix here, which is like she's the mad scientist that's also driven mad by her own creations. She's driven mad by her ability to create deadly, dangerous things. But it is just like, of course, it's the female character that's the one that's going to have emotions about it, you know?
I mean, the other very Morrison writing women.txt thing that's going on here is her first reaction to her panic is to fuck somebody about it.
You know, we've been there. We've all been there. I've been there. Don't worry about it. Sometimes you have to have sex about it. Don't worry.
Just but in the middle of this all hands on deck, we have to scramble the monsters to fight Black Adam. T.O. Morrow is outbidding somebody in Australia for an art sculpture, and Veronica Cale is fucking Will Magnus's brains out.
It's just funny to me also that Will Magnus was like, sure, okay, whatever.
Yeah. Like, I get it. I'm off my meds too.
You know, one of the symptoms of bipolar disorder. Anyway, we won't get into that. But it is like, you can just hear the cacophony, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of really fun, tiny dialogue pieces. Like when, one of the guys says he's about to soil his villain suit. Really cracked me up.
Oh, something that really upset me is the first thing Veronica says to Will post-coitus is, "Do you hate me?" What is that about?
I don't know.
That
doesn't really make any sense. That is like the most Grant Morrison writing women.txt, I think. You know, like, I don't know why you would ask another fellow mad scientist if you hate them for doing mad science. The answer to that question is obviously no.
So Veronica Cale, completely shell-shocked, just walks through the front door, unlocks it, titties out, and just says to Black Adam right away, "I was the one who killed your family." And he just doesn't even register her. He just runs past her.
It's so interesting. Okay, so on the topic of Grant Morrison writing women.txt, I find this moment interesting because Morrison does this thing that I find frustrating in a lot of different male writers, where they do something horribly stereotypical and create a woman that they've obviously fetishized. But then they also place in the text an acknowledgement of the sexism existing in the world. You know?
Doesn't the sexism that I put here myself suck?
Yeah, well, it's like, you know, I appreciate it because it's true, right?
Yeah.
Like, Black Adam is too vain to do anything other than go after Dr. Savannah. He feels like that's his ultimate nemesis. That's the person that he's got to go after. He doesn't really care that this other person is having an admission. He feels like he needs to place the blame on the most powerful entities in the vicinity, and he has no fucking idea who Veronica Cale is.
Something I didn't notice until literally this moment where I'm looking at the page is that we see just the trail of a smoking gun as Veronica Cale literally shot the security guard in the head who was keeping anyone from opening the door. The other thing is that Morrison uses her as the vehicle here to deliver the teaser for their next big project, where she mentions that the final crisis is coming.
Yes, I did. Okay, so I appreciate Veronica Cale's crash out because it allows this tease to happen, right? She starts talking about all the things that Final Crisis is about, right?
Right.
A massive clash of morals, the fight for humanity. And it gives her the sort of sexist characterization. It actually does give it a little bit of texture here because she has now gone off the deep end far enough that she gets to see deep into the future, the deeper ramifications of everything that's being built here. So it is like a little bit like Quentin Tarantino's original female characters, where you are so irritated that he fetishizes them so much. But then, like, in the end of Death Trap, it's a bunch of cool women beating the shit out of a weird, gross man. And you're like, well, I like that.
I got to give props to my homie Greg Rucka, because as I found out reading, again, the liner notes, Keith Giffen revealed that originally Veronica was supposed to die in this issue. Black Adam would have killed her. And Greg was like, maybe we leave her alive, like as a witness to all this, to recognize what she's done, which makes sense since Veronica is literally a character from his Wonder Woman run. But yeah, it's an interesting pivot.
I mean, I think it actually fits Adam's characterization better, where as we saw in the issue right before this, he's lost it. Like, his grief and his desire for revenge is too intense for him to actually listen to another person.
He'll kill 2 million off-screen Bialian women, no problem. But this one white lady, not worth his time.
Yeah, that's a step too far.
Yeah. Here we are. Black Adam has passed the gates. It's time for them to fight with each other directly. Everybody takes out their laser guns. So and here comes one of my favorite Morrisonian bits, just like not even getting up out of his chair. Tio Morrow aims a remote control right at Black Adam's head and opens a tesseract the size of a football field inside of his brain, and just gives him the mother of all migraine headaches, and then which cuts to just a stampede of mad scientists kicking him on the ground until they can place like a neural crown on his head.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
What I love about this especially is that everyone else is geared up in their supervillain outfits except for Tio Morrow, who is still in vacation wear. He's still in his fucking boat shoes with his cravat like tucked into his Hawaiian shirt. He's mad chillin'. He does not give a fuck.
He knew exactly what he was going to do this whole time. Just real king shit. And he's
a real like stealth, like unsung hero or villain of this whole series. Is just this guy who gets kidnapped and then has the best time of his life.
And like, he's far more excited about the fact that he wins the Red Tornado auction and siphoned the money of the guy who put it up to buy the thing itself so he could get away with it for free than he was in taking down a guy stronger than Superman. And he turns right to the viewer and says, I'll say it if no one else will. Feel free to cackle hysterically, gentlemen.
It's really good. So we saw, I mean, if you are listening to this, you are probably aware that we do bonus episodes if you're an Aftermath site subscriber. And we did record one about the Superman movie. And what I like about this portrayal of supervillains is they remind me of the Superman movie in that they are just like rubbing their hands together, evil cackling villains. They're just hateable and they know they're evil and they don't have a rationale. They just love doing evil shit.
Oh, I wanted to tell you that because I am a mod on the official DC Discord, I'm happy to report that 1A has kind of become a bit of a meme.
That fucking rules. I love that. I just think that's great.
Yeah. This scene is very much that bit in The Simpsons at Camp Krusty where the camp director is like having a big dinner with the counselors and goes, gentlemen, to evil.
Yeah, exactly.
But now it's time to go to Metropolis. Speaking of the Superman movie, we forgot about Lex Luthor. It's been a couple weeks and Steel brought him down, and now it's finally time for the cops to bring him in on account of all the crimes.
I love this little coda because, again, we get to see Clark Kent as Clark Kent, just a guy who is observant of things. It's really cute. I also really like seeing Natasha. I like seeing her in the full steel getup.
Oh, yeah, I love this steel suit. Yeah.
The steel suit's really, really, really good. It does give a little bit of the upcoming Blue Beetle, like, costume.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the sort of, like, black faceplate with white eyes. But it looks good on her. The one thing I always wish they had is the big metal dreads that they have for one of her costumes, but this one's pretty good too.
I think one thing I really like about it is that there are a lot of costumes that, especially on black heroes, that tend to just completely hide their faces. And this is one of them, but she is unmistakably a black woman wearing that suit.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I love this coda, one for two things, actually. Because of the Superman movie, I also started watching Smallville again, and that's just some great TV. I really, really like it. But in this version of the continuity, at this point in time, the Smallville tidbit that they created for that show in order to have Lex Luthor there is that Lex and Clark have known each other since they were children. Mm-hmm. So how does a non-powered Clark Kent figure out that, as the heroes are about to discover, that Lex Luthor sent actually Hannibal to get arrested and is staying hidden behind a lead door? Clark just knows Lex is a motherfucker.
Right. He's like, that's how he Lex is way too calm about the fact that the police are taking him in. Something must be up. I know that man. And his reporter's instincts, his knowing Lex Luthor since childhood instincts kick in, and he just runs into the building, Steel and Natasha giving chase. They break down a wall, and there they find Lex just eating a cheeseburger, watching the arraignment on a bank of monitors.
It's so funny. It's so hilarious. He's like, what, the arraignment was today? Yeah. Classic Lex stuff. You can picture Nicholas Holt's Lex doing this exact thing. Like, that's how I know that the Superman movie is like a good interpretation of these characters.
Again, this absolutely feels like pure Morrison Luthor. This is all-star Superman Luthor right here. The one who will reprogram an audiobook to drill a hole through a wall. And yeah, this is just absolutely prime Luthor. It reminds me a bit, again, of that Superman movie where he's like, what dog? I don't know what you're talking about.
And then, did you ever figure out what Lex is muttering into his coffee? I watched the movie twice and I couldn't hear it.
He said, little white dog in a cape.
My God.
Yeah.
What a bitch. I love
it. Just confirming that he knows exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, that's just mwah.
Yeah.
Mwah. It is a great day for those of us that love really smug villains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Unsurprisingly, I've been seeing the two big ships coming out of that movie are A, Klex, which never goes out of style.
Of course not.
And B, Mr. Terrific / Guy Gardner, which...
Yes, I love that ship too!
Yeah. Mr. Terrific literally comes out and say, I'm just doing this to get Guy mad. Of course it's going to get the girlies excited.
Of course. Tumblr has been going absolutely buck wild, but maybe that's like a different episode of this podcast.
I would love to do an episode about comic book Tumblr culture. You're going to have to take point on that one. But for now, let's go to Bialya, where 2 million people are dead.
Oh boy. The JSA is having a bad time. They're not happy about the things they're seeing. It's a very, like, No Country for Old Men type scene. You know that scene in the end of No Country for Old Men, the Coen brothers movie, where the old sheriff is describing a case that horrified him, where he saw that someone had chained up 2 old people nude in a basement, and one day they made their escape, fleeing naked across backyards, malnourished and all of this. And he's like, and that was the day I decided to stop being a cop.
Yeah.
I get the same kind of vibe here, where it's a bunch of
Yeah, he looks up from his newspaper and says, this really is no country for old men. And that's what the credits roll.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's like what happens in the movie.
That is kind of what happens.
It's a really good movie, though.
It is.
I promise.
It is.
Oh, God. Man, Cormac McCarthy. People question me when I say things like, Cormac McCarthy is a conservative writer. But that scene is just all about, like, I'm an old Republican and the world's too violent now. Like, that's what it's about. But here we get to see all the members of the JSA have their own little I'm too old for this shit type moment where they are talking amongst themselves. All of these are like older heroes, less popular heroes, and they're just like, we don't know how to deal with cataclysms that are this intense. We're old. We're too old.
Yeah, these superheroes are out of time, and that's a little bit of the theme of Geoff John's entire JSA run. This series is coming in between chapters of what Geoff is doing with the JSA, where what happens after this is very much about the old guard passing the torch to a new generation of heroes. Like, this is around the time that, like, Stargirl gets really involved and Jakeem Thunder. So the themes here are, like, we aren't the main guys anymore. We need to do what we can to prepare the next generation. And this is a very Geoff Johns laying the groundwork for what he wants to do.
Yeah, lineage being the thing that primarily differentiates the DC universes from the Marvel universes.
Yeah.
After we finish discussing this, I actually want to bring up all the Marvel comics I've been reading in the segment that I've been sneakily adding into some of the episodes here in the back half of the podcast that I'll tentatively call Jaffe and Gita just vamp about comics they're currently reading. But yes, as the JSA is sort of leading into this thing that will become the overarching theme of the rest of their own comic after this event, we turn the page and we see Atom Smasher, who is like, fuck y'all, I want in.
Yeah, the guy who just quit being in the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, he's like, well, I didn't quit doing that because I was not averse to heroism. I love heroism, actually. I love it a little too much.
And that's kind of the end of our issue. We get a little teaser for all the plot lines we'll be revisiting in the next one. We see a little bit of Natasha, we see a little Black Adam, we see a little bit of Nightwing and Renee Montoya, and we go right into our backup, the origin of Batman. Do you know this guy? What do you know about this guy?
I don't know, some loser who has like way too much money and probably could have used all that for doing acts of civil service, but chooses not to.
Yeah. A window broke and he decided to make his whole life about that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, Batman. I don't know if this guy's ever. He dresses up as a bat to fight crime. I don't know if this will ever catch on. I gotta shout out the Andy Kubert art here. Andy Kubert at this time was very involved in Morrison's big Batman saga that they were writing. Also worked a lot with Geoff Johns on Green Lantern, the colorist Moose Bauman. He also worked on this Batman comic I just finished reading called City of Light, which isn't great, but is kind of an interesting rarity for the fact that it has Cassandra Cain in the Batgirl role, which isn't something you got a lot of outside her own series. Yeah.
Yeah. Some just great work from Mark Waid, as usual, condensing a hero's entire deal into 2 pages.
I also like that he more or less sticks to the kinds of clothing you see Bruce Wayne wearing. This is like a very minor detail, but I think it's really cute. In that panel that has the bat bursting through the window that Batman fans have seen from all different angles and all different contexts, it is more or less the same dorky ass outfit Bruce was wearing in that original description of his origin story, which is just a red sweater over a collared shirt. Does not seem like something a billionaire would wear now, but that is what Bruce Wayne is wearing in this panel. A nice little sort of homage to the deep lineage, a deep history, I should say, of this character, going back all the way back to the beginning of Detective Comics.
Yeah. I love this little bit. I think the prose is very solid. I think we really nailed down everything we need to see in 8 panels. We get, for essential storylines, the Batman Chronicles, which is an interesting pull. That's kind of a weird anthology that was going on at the time. Batman Year One, The Dark Knight Returns, no-brainers. Batman, The Greatest Stories Ever Told, which is kind of a catch-all reprint collection that was pretty big in the mid-2000s. What would your 4 essential Batman comics be?
Well, one of them isn't really out yet at this time, right? But it is one of my essential comics, and that is the Black Hand murder mystery in locked room murder mystery that Grant Morrison did as part of their run. That one introduces the idea that Batman has influenced other vigilante-esque figures across the globe, and they all are clearly inspired by Batman and just are doing like Italian flavor Batman or England flavor Batman, et cetera, but only one of them can be the Batman. And I really, really like that one. I also, honestly, there's parts of No Man's Land that I feel like are essential for understanding Batman as he exists now.
That's on my list, yes.
Yeah, where the Bat family becomes so present in that book, despite my frustration with some of the choices about what to do to the members of the Bat family. I do feel like it is a story of a group of people that are woven into each other's lives because they share this common cause, and also because they don't want their adoptive dad to lose his mind.
Yeah. Again, the best version of that story is Greg Rucka's novelization of No Man's Land, which really reworks the parts that don't work and make it one really cohesive narrative. I would recommend that to anybody who hasn't checked that out. That's good. I think Batman Strange Apparitions is kind of the writer's run on Batman, a run in the 70s that Steve Englehart did. That's the one that Joker Fish is from. That's the one that like Deadshot is kind of from.
Hell yeah.
It does a lot of really cool stuff with Batman. He gives him a love interest, Silver St. Cloud. Batman fucks for the first time in that run.
Yeah. We love it. Oh man, Silver St. Cloud is such a good name for a character, isn't it? Like that's an enduring name. I hope Silver St. Cloud shows up in the new James Gunn Marvel universe, because that sounds like a James Gunn-esque character name. Also, but I think those are some pretty good recommendations, frankly.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison's Batman run is one of my favorites of all time, but you have to have a really high tolerance for Grant Morrison's shit, so it's hard for me to say that it's essential. I will say, though, the one arc that has to do with, the Batman of the world in a locked room, like, murder mystery, that's just really fun. And it gives room for Bruce Wayne to be a detective, which I always appreciate when writers remember that he isn't just a guy with a lot of gadgets. He also really cares about Sherlock Holmesian deduction.
Even if writers don't, people ask me for stories where Batman is a detective all the time, and I kind of have to tell them there really aren't that many. Because detective writers don't really write Batman.
It's like genuinely hard to write a compelling mystery. I think that's why people like Court of Owls so much, because it's a grand conspiracy theory. It's not one of my faves, I'll say.
It's not really a mystery.
Yeah.
It's just it's more of a thriller, really.
Yeah, but it makes people, because it's describing an ancient conspiracy, it makes people feel like they're reading a murder mystery, but it's not really. I do sort of long for the idea of a Batman and an Agatha Christie story, and I don't think we'll ever really get that, just because, like, murder mystery writing is a very particular and specific skill, and like not a lot of people who get into comic books have that.
Right, that's very true. It's something we're waiting for. It's something I think Tim Drake would be really good at if we need a guy to spin off and do mysteries.
Oh, yes, please. Let my little boy Tim go.
Yeah. Knives Out Tim Drake. Let's do it.
Bisexual. And it works perfectly because he's also a bisexual disaster.
Right. What was your favorite scene in this issue?
I think actually my favorite scene is Black Adam just completely ignoring Veronica Gale.
Yeah.
It's really funny to me. I like, again, it's the thing where it's like you watch someone manage to write something really sexist, and then you are not mad because they're also good at writing generally. Yeah.
My favorite Morrison shit is Morrison writing Dr. Sivana, because it's very rare that I feel the same way about comics that Morrison does. But on Sivana, we are completely in tune with each other.
Yeah.
Just like that gleeful approach to impossible evil. And it's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because the best thing that Morrison writes with Sivana is their multiversity tie-in, Thunderworld Adventures. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard to recommend now because of the art by known creep Cameron Stewart. And like, I'm having a really difficult time getting my head around like that classic thing of separation of art and artist.
Yeah.
But combine that with the how much does an artist have as authorship of a comic as opposed to a writer? Especially when it comes to like the message and content of the comic. Like, yes, they create the visual style of it, but the work as an expression of the feelings of the creative team that usually comes from the writer. I don't think like Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg have anything to do with like the subtext of The Sandman being about like how it's cool to abuse women, but that's very much the subtext of what Neil Gaiman is doing there.
Yes. It's such I appreciate being able to have these conversations with you because, like, unfortunately, you see this a lot in, like, nerdy spaces where it's not even, like, you get to be a big fish in a really small pond for a lot of these creators. You know, it reminds me a little bit about game development. You know, I've heard descriptions from people that are familiar with the situation about like BlizzCon, where Blizzard wanted to have their own convention so that the developers could go there and just act like rock stars. And what does it mean to act like a rock star? It means do too much drugs and treat people like shit. And that's what they end up doing. And then you look at them and it's like, you are a guy that codes like for 40 hours a week. What the fuck? Like, how do you end up having so much sway and influence? But I went back and I reread the website that the people who called out Warren Ellis for his sketchy, creepy behavior made, so many of us. And just the sheer tonnage of the people that gave their stories and the repeating behaviors that he shows towards women. And then also this night that you're able to piece together through all of these different statements from different women where he had like went to Comic-Con and there was like 3 different women coming to his hotel room that none of them knew each other, that knew that it was happening. It really is shocking the level of cruelty that people can express. And it's hard for me because Warren Ellis is one of my favorite comic book writers for a really long time.
I love Planetary.
Planetary, man. Planetary really changed my life for the better for the most part. It made me feel a wonder at the way that all living people on Earth are connected to each other, and it filled my heart and life with hope. But also, there is a character in Planetary that is based off of one of the women that gave a statement to this website. It is really difficult to say, you know, I try to thread the needle by saying, I'm never going to mention these people without mentioning the things that they've done. And as much as I talk about these specific creators and their comics and what they meant to me, I also then have to lift up other voices, other names, especially women and people of color, the kinds of people that don't get as much attention because white male creators, cishet creators, get like Warren Ellis and other people get so much more space and so much more prestige. But then I go and like we both saw the Superman movie and Warren Ellis' name in the credits. Why? Yeah. Because Angela's a part of Authority and he wrote Authority.
Which I hear is canceled now. That's the rumor.
I mean, I feel like there's no way to do an Authority movie.
Yeah.
So it's probably for the best.
Yeah, I am relieved, honestly.
Yeah, if that ends up
I
being
think we
true,
were
I'm
all
relieved.
guessing that James Gunn was going towards a like, what's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way, where he sets them up as like an opposing force to Superman. But I didn't. I never wanted like Warren Ellis to get all that equity, A.
Yeah,
and
no,
B,
exactly.
I didn't think it would work as a movie.
I think after this movie, you can kind of feel that Gunn realizes he already got there emotionally. Yeah. He already expresses the thing that what's so funny about truth, justice, and the American way, which is one of my favorite superhero stories and Superman stories ever, without having to involve all of the characters from the Authority. You don't have to set up that question of how should we treat other people when you've already made such a compelling case for it.
Specifically with Cameron Stewart, I mean, one thing I've been thinking about is how you have something like Thunderworld Adventures, which it feels a lot more like a Morrison thing, but it wouldn't be there without Cameron's art. But you compare that to something that Cameron was directly involved in writing, the Batgirl of Burnside run. And I know that run is beloved by a lot of people. I do not like it for a lot of reasons. But one of them is that there's this overarching theme of like women being loose on social media and like Barbara Gordon joining that community because she wants to hook up. And it's really unsettling knowing where he's coming from, that he's the guy who wrote all that.
Yeah.
So like on the one hand, I want to have this conversation that writers and artists are equally as involved in the creation of a comic book as a primarily visual medium. But when you're talking about accounting for an author's personal viewpoints, where does the art aspect fall into that? Yeah,
it reminds me a little bit of there's an X-Men book, and apologies if I'm not getting the details exactly correct, but the artists had to be removed because they were non-American and they kept inserting imagery relating to a contentious, very political election going on in their own country, where they were having characters wear T-shirts with slogans for the hard right political opponent. That was a sort of Trumpian figure that was in the mix. Right. And there is that is like a cut and dried case of an artist trying to put their own political expression into the work and then coming under fire for it.
It can happen. Like the first episode of this podcast, we talked about how Joe Bennett was caught on the Hulk putting anti-Semitic imagery into that Hulk run.
Just like, why? Why would you do this? You know, it feels like it's so easy to just shut up and take the money, right? Well, the thing that everyone has been begging J.K. Rowling to do. But there are times like how much do you want to bet that Cameron Stewart just really enjoyed drawing the stuff from the Batgirl of Burnside run of the comic that made you feel icky. And just the idea of him liking doing that is enough to give me chills.
This is the reason I'm doing it. It's weird.
It makes you feel gross. It's a little bit like Greg Land and the really pornographic way he draws women. Or it's just like, I know that like the book is good, but I hate looking at this because I feel how perverted you are.
Yeah, well, that I attribute to kind of, laziness.
It was an era, it was a time, it was, again, I mean, to your point, it's Mark Miller not wanting to call out his artist on this shit.
Right.
Like there is some synergy there, but it's like at the end of the day, there's a story being told and the artist is trying to serve that story while also simultaneously, like, yes, they do have their own point of view. They do bring it to life in a way that is in accordance with their particular perspective on the world.
Do you want to put anything on the blackboard this week?
Do I want to put anything on the blackboard? Can you, for me, where do those other villain suits come from? Where would I know them from?
Okay, let's see. Well, Dr. Time, the one with the big clock head, he's a Doom Patrol villain.
Great. No, I remember Dr. Time. I love when he says that he can't see out of the suit.
Yeah. Dr. Cyclops is, I believe, from Dial H for Hero. A lot of these guys are one-shot guys from Dial H for Hero, which was this series in kind of the 60s in House of Mystery about this kid named Robbie Reed who had a magical telephone dial that every time he dialed it, he would become a different randomly generated superhero. And he fought a lot of mad scientists. The Bug Baron is also from that run. I think we talked about in a previous issue about how like Mark Waid was just a big Dial H for Hero fan.
Yeah, I think so.
One of these guys, the one in like kind of the gas mask, is Dr. Death, who is interesting because he is the first recurring Batman villain. All the way back, like before there was even a Robin. The first guy who showed up in like multiple issues of Batman was this evil mad scientist named Dr. Death, who doesn't really have much to him other than that he's kind of a generic mad scientist who works with poisons. So there's not really much of a gimmick for him. I think I've talked about the kart racer theory that a friend of mine once had. The kart racer theory is that the key to a good Batman villain is if you can imagine a themed go-kart for them, then they work. And if you can't, they don't. I can't imagine a Dr. Death go-kart. But
that's such a good idea.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
And Veronica Cale. And the other one is IQ, Ira Quimby. He is a guy who, like, he's a Hawkman villain who gets more intelligent by absorbing the sun's rays. He was sunbathing a few issues ago for that reason. And that's basically everybody.
Okay. When you see them in costume. It's so fun because you suddenly realize how ridiculous they all are.
Yes. It's like that thing in the Batman Incorporated storyline, The Black Glove, where you just see all of these Batmen of the world hanging out in costumes. Like, okay, what do we got? What's the situation?
Yeah, it's so silly. I love it.
I think because we are so familiar with the heroes of the Justice League, the novelty of seeing all those different costumes together is kind of worn off. Like, oh, they're supposed to belong together. It's when all of these weirdos show up in the same room that you're like, oh, this is kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Okay, I got something I want to put on the blackboard.
Please.
Back in the day, I had a couple of comic book themed Tumblrs. And my favorite Tumblr that I maintained was one that I called Gimme the Pearls, which was just a catalog of every single time we see Jonathan and Martha Wayne shot in Crime Alley. And there were hundreds of entries. We see it from every possible angle, every permutation. And just going through this issue, I was like, oh, I remember getting that one. Because we got that right in the second panel over here. Martha in her like feathered hat and her pearl necklace. The pearl necklace, the just motif of Martha's pearls scattering everywhere, that was invented by Frank Miller in The Dark Knight Returns. She didn't have one before that. I want to know if like you have a favorite version of Thomas and Martha Wayne's death scene, because I do.
Oh my God. Do I have a favorite version? I'm not sure if I do, actually. I'm curious to hear what yours is, though.
I think the best version we have ever seen in over 85 years of Batman stories of Thomas and Martha Wayne's death is the sequence in the video game Batman Arkham Asylum.
Really?
Yeah. There is this great sequence where you've been poisoned by the Scarecrow, and you hallucinate the fact that yourself being in this just empty city alley with like newspapers and garbage blowing around you, and you can't run. You're just like walking through the alley. And you're just dressed as Batman, and you're walking through this empty alley. And as you walk through, you just hear in audio the whole sequence of Thomas and Martha and little Bruce going through the alley and getting mugged. You don't see any of it. But by the time you get to the end, you're a little boy at your parents' bodies. And it was just, it's such a cool part of the
video
game.
Games,
There's a lot I love about those Arkham video games.
They're really good, actually. Like, they're actually really good games. And it's annoying to me that they're good, but they are really, really good.
Yeah. Frank Cifaldi and I talk about this all the time in our video game podcast, the Insert Credit Show, which I'll plug really quickly, about how Batman Arkham Knight is this kind of overlooked masterpiece of superhero video games because it wasn't what people expected it to be. But if you judge it on its own merits, it does some really interesting things about what it's like to be a superhero in Gotham City, and specifically the relationship between Batman and the Joker, which is a thing a lot of people were tired of, and I get it. I'm just not. I'm a sicko for the Joker. I love the Joker. I'm sorry. Joker rules. He's the best villain in comics. I don't know what to tell you. I talk a lot about the fact that people aren't sick of the Joker. They're sick of Joker events. The idea of Joker being like the ultimate villain and Batman's greatest foe, when he's just a silly little guy who makes him mad because he doesn't like do anything by any kind of internal logic. Like he'll try to copyright fish. That's the Joker to me. That's what I put on the blackboard.
Thank you. Thank you for your beautiful, wonderful, super creative entry. It made me really want to play the Batman Arkham Asylum games again, but I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I can't. I got too many other things I got to do.
I would like to one day do a bonus episode about those Arkham games in the distant future.
Yeah.
But just something to put way in the corner of the blackboard for now.
Yeah.
Right now, I have a couple questions from our listeners. If you would like to ask us a question, all you have to do is write to 52mailbag@gmail.com. We'll see that message. We'll probably include it on the show. This one comes from John, who says, "Hi, Gita and Alex, loving every bit of your wonderful double act podcast. One of my absolute favorite single issues ever is Showcase number 100, in which, for this anniversary issue, they created a story where every single character who had ever appeared in Showcase up to that point, no matter how obscure, and some of these characters were very obscure, had to appear and work together to fight a world-destroying menace. And the best part? Lois Lane is the one who succeeds in saving the world when she's the only one left who can. Apart from 52, what are the best examples of DC media that put a spotlight on their great roster of obscure characters? DC's Brave and the Bold is a favorite of mine, both the original comic book and the recent animated version. That recent animated version is 15 years old, dog. Thanks.
Way to call them the fuck out. Jeez. No, but you're right. It is 15 years old. It is really good. I was going to say that Brave and the Bold cartoon is one of my faves, but Alex, Jaffe, I think this question really is for you.
There is a tragically overlooked sister title to Brave and the Bold called DC Comics Presents that I think people should really check out from that era if they're interested in these team-ups with obscure characters. Brave and the Bold, after a certain point, was always about like Batman teaming up with some cool guy. But DC Comics Presents was a team-up book featuring Superman. And you would see all of these people you would never see Superman interact with in that book. I think Mark Waid did a really underrated revival of the Brave and the Bold in 2008, which was like this kind of baton toss where, like, for example, in the first issue, it's a Batman and Green Lantern team-up. But then in the second, it's a Green Lantern and Supergirl team-up. And you see that kind of like round robin go through just like a really unexpected roster until you end up with like Brother Power the Geek, who was this hippie mannequin superhero who was in 2 issues of some comic book in 1977. That's a really cool one. I really like, there was an anniversary issue of Detective Comics where, like Showcase, they have a bunch of guys who have been featured in Detective Comics teaming up together. Slam Bradley is there. Elongated Man is there. And they all go on this like big mystery together in England that culminates with them teaming up with like an 109-year-old Sherlock Holmes.
That's
who is
funny.
like, oh yeah, remember how in my last adventure I got really into beekeeping? It turns out the secret of immortality is in honey. Who knew?
I love that.
Yeah. That's a really good one. Yeah, great. Justice League Unlimited, which is going on right now, is a great book about unexpected rosters of characters being thrown together, just like the animated Justice League Unlimited, which was one of the keys to getting me into the DC universe. Literally right now, Mark Waid is co-writing a storyline with Mark Guggenheim, which is this big tribute to Legends of Tomorrow, and has this character in like a suit who is clearly meant to be Sarah Lance, but that hasn't been confirmed yet, and I'm very excited about that. Here's another question. Hi, Alex and Gita. Ever since I got out of the theater from watching My Good Boy Crypto, I've looked forward to hearing your thoughts on the movie and associated comics. I'm reading the Terrifics now, though my library Hoopla account, because how could you leave that movie without thinking Michael Holt is the coolest guy in the world? My question for you both. What did you think about Suan Krypton, the new conlang for Kryptonian? How much Kryptonian does Clark usually speak and understand, and how? Do other Kryptonian houses have translations like Star? Why do Kryptonian women not have their own last name? Kara Zor-El, Lara Lorvan becoming Lara. Is Cal baby? Context from David Peterson's Tumblr, co-creator of the movie's conlang.
Okay,
and there's a link here.
I looked at the link. I want to explain this one. In the Tumblr, the post that is linked here, Cal means child. And then the co-creator of the conlang goes on to say, Kal-El means star child. But that also means that Kal-El, Clark Kent's name is baby.
Yeah. That's not uncommon. The name baby boy is like very common in different like cultures here on Earth. I don't think that's necessarily unheard of. But I don't know. Superman can speak it fluently in previous incarnations of the canon. It's something that he has been able to research through the Fortress of Solitude. The one thing I will say is that officially the language is not called Kryptonian. It's called Kryptonese. Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kryptonese? I don't like that as much. Kryptonese? Shut up.
The people are Kryptonian. The language is Kryptonese. I don't make the rules.
Yeah, I know. You don't. You're just here to faithfully report them to me.
Yeah.
Jeez. I don't like that as much, though.
Make your own judgments. Thanks for getting me back into American comics and for the excellent podcast, Anonymous. Thank you, Anonymous. That's all for this here show. We will be back next time to discuss 52, number 47 of 52. We're getting real close, gang. We're getting real close.
Oh my God. I can't believe it.
I don't want to say goodbye.
We're going to have to eventually, but not for a little while. Okay.
Not for a little while. I just don't think I'm ready.
Wait, what was that? What did you say?
I said I don't think I'm ready.
But we've been talking about that every episode.
Beg your pardon? What do you mean?
Are you ready?
What? Thank you.
No problem. 52 Pickup is an Aftermath production created by Gita Jackson and Alex Jaffe and edited by Esper Quim, with original music by John Aaron. Hosting for 52 Pickup is provided by Insert Credit. The views and opinions expressed on this show are solely those of the show's personalities and do not reflect those of DC Entertainment or Warner Brothers. Please rate and review our show wherever you can and send your questions and comments to 52mailbag@gmail.com. Never stop reading comics.